Welcome to Dr. TSPR show. I am Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello. Yesterday also we have gone on a special show wherein our soldiers were killed. 20 of them were killed on the LAC, the Ladakh region, in Galwan River Valley. The entire nation is paying homage to all those brave soldiers, and their families have been deprived of their near and dear ones. So I don't need to put all those perspectives which have led to this escalation, because yesterday itself we have been very clearly putting it across to the people of India. But again, through this show, and on behalf of all my guests and the eagle elite and all those concerned people, concerned citizens of India, let me pay my respects to the families, and also let me pray for the souls to rest in peace. And just the chronological order, last 1 month or so, since May 5th, the escalation has been happening along the border, and this has led to these skirmishes. So before we really get into the discussion, I would like to play a small AV saluting the sacrifices of, or remembering the sacrifices of our brave soldiers. This will be played online. That will kindly hold. Kindly play the audio, please. Audio and video, please. In their hometowns, how their families have been in wait for these brave soldiers. At times they come back, and as we have seen in the case of 20 brave soldiers who have lost of Bihar regiment, they could never come back, but their corpses were laid to rest with all state honors. Before we go into the discussion now, before we had the skirmishes with Pakistan, right from Pulwama and all those border things, people were agitated, and we have seen how our brave Indian Army and Air Force tackled that issue. Now this is a China issue. They are on par or better than us in certain spheres economically. So we are treading a cautious path. So this is very obvious, and it is very clearly seen as to how the governments have been adopting measures when it comes to the neighbors in dealing the aggression. When it comes to Pakistan, we are dealing it in other way. When it comes to Chinese, we are dealing with other way. And when it came to Nepal also, even Nepal, it is also a bothersome, though it's Hindu country, we are facing the same problem there also. So different yardsticks for different neighbors in and around our Indian subcontinent is very confusing, and this has led to banning of Chinese goods, and this has become a new rhetoric since yesterday. So before I read out the names, let me introduce my esteemed guest to the people of India today. We have Mr. Sandeep Pandey, representing, should I mention the party's name, sir? Socialist Party of India. You have to.
Definitely. Please go ahead.
Mr. Sandeep Pandey is representing Socialist Party of India. And I have other gentlemen in Mr. Vijayan. He represents Pakistan India Forum for Peace and Development. And I have another gentleman. Mr. Vijayan is from Delhi now. He has joined us from Delhi. Mr. Sandeep Pandey from Lucknow. And I have Dr. Arun Mitra, Doctors for Peace and Development from Ludhiana. And I am connected to all by none other than our Sagar Dara, our esteemed guest, who is ex-consultant on Environment Protection Committee, United Nations, and a risk analyst. And he has also done extensive work on borders. So welcome to this special show, gentlemen. Before we get into the subject discussion, the people of India should understand what do they mean by ban Chinese, because I'm not reading infrastructure right from oil to every nook and corner of Indian companies they have invested or they are sharing their technology. But famous and prominent companies which day to day every human understands, the companies which have major Chinese investments include Big Basket. They should understand, again, Shah Rukh Khan, advertisements. Byju's, all leading artists, right from Shah Rukh Khan to all local leading artists. With Mohanlal also is the lead star in Kerala, who is propagating this. Byju, then Delivery, Dream11, Flipkart, Hike, Make My Trip, Ola, Oyo, Paytm Mall, Policy Bazaar, Quicker, Rivigo, Snapdeal, Swiggy, Udan, Zomato are some where Chinese companies hold very good stake. This is other than the infrastructure companies. If you say infrastructure, you should always ask Mr. Ambani to come out as to what is the stake, Chinese stake there, whether all these things are being manufactured in India as we are being touted by the present government, make in India, make in India. At the same time, this government has made 100% FDI, has got 100% FDI into retail also. Because we have been fighting, at least they have not bothered to get into Kirana and street milk vendors. Had that been done, we would have faced the same situation like America, wherein we should have gone and stood in front of malls. So this is the ill effects. UPA stopped at 49%, and this government, they have turned that into FDI into retail by enhancing it to 100%. Not only that, during Corona crisis, this FDI has gone to 73% in defense also, mind you, viewers. This is on the one side, the flip aspect. Let me read the famous Indian companies in China, those companies which a common man can identify. Adani Global. Adani is the biggest investor, and his companies are also being invested in India by Chinese, very reciprocal. SR, Jindal Steel and Power Limited, Reliance Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group, Tata Information Technology Company Limited, TCS, Tata Sons Limited, Union Bank of India, Allahabad Bank, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, BEML, ZTV, Jet Airways, Apollo International Limited, Air India, Ashok Leland, Axis Bank Limited. I think people were eager to know what happened to the other gentleman. Yes, Reliance Industries Limited. It's a big way. Apollo International Limited, Air India, Axis Bank have read, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, Bharat Earth Movers Limited, HCL Technologies, Shanghai, Lucas TV, Larsen and Turbo Limited, Punjab National Bank, Raymond Limited, Reliance Industries, State Bank of India, which people can, common people can identify. Now this rhetoric, beyond this rhetoric, because there are some media channels who have been blaming army, they say army could not control, it is the responsibility of army, not the Prime Minister of India. We are not taking any sides, because Dr. TSPR show right from the day one runs as per the rule of law and constitution with no enmity towards any individual nor animosity towards any party. Having said so, when we take up the issue, we are not bothered whether it's an individual or a party. So these are some of the things. The people, the families who have lost their near and dear ones, they are suffering, they are mourning. The other side, this rhetoric, ban this, ban that, or bomb them, bomb here. This is the rhetoric which is being carried by all the ruling clan. Now, when I've seen the statement of Ministry of External Affairs today, they were very candid and clear, stating that there are talks going on It is China's aggression. They are so passive. Even today's brief, I have just listened to that. There is no way they were insisting that there should be banned or an aggressive posture from India officially. The people of India kindly understand. They are ready to participate in the two Russia, India and China RIC meeting scheduled on 23rd of this month. So this is what the official aspect of our government. Then why are being people enraged that they should take a strict action or something in the lines of what they have done against Pakistan in POK when we were attacked, whether it is Pulwama issue or other issue, how we have gone and smashed their hideouts. So the same people who are expecting, but that is not happening now. That is not happening now. So let me start with Mr. Sandeep Pandeyji. How do you look at this scenario? Sandeep Pandeyji.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you saying something to me? Can you repeat what?
Yes. How do you look at this scenario?
Oh, acha, okay. What has happened is very unfortunate because, are you able to hear me now? Okay. So,
Yes.
what has happened is very unfortunate because, I have written it in some articles, and last year we also took out a peace march from Ahmedabad to Nada Bait, which is on the border of Pakistan, the Gujarat and Sindh border. And one of the demands in that march was that there should be no firing across the India-Pakistan border, just like there has been no firing across the India-Chinese border. Actually, it should be called the Indo-Tibetan border. Because I have a Tibetan activist friend, Tenzin Sundu, who is very particular about calling this border as India-Tibet border. And he says that you have a force which is called Indo-Tibetan Border Force. So even your government recognizes it as Tibet. So it is just that Tibet is now occupied by China. So, but the fact is that there was no firing across the Chinese border since '62, and there was some kind of unspoken, unwritten understanding that the soldiers will wrestle, will throw stones at each other, push each other, but not fire. And therefore, we were saying that we should have a same kind of arrangement with Pakistan. Why should soldiers die when Mr. Modi can go and visit Nawaz Sharif whenever he wants and tries to have a cordial relationship with him? I mean, he went and participated in Nawaz Sharif's family program and presented a shawl to his mother. At that time, he didn't ask Nawaz Sharif, why is there firing across the border? So this kind of facility should be given to even the soldiers and the ordinary citizens. So what is remarkable is in that yatra, Narendra Modi's wife, Yashoda Behan, came and extended her support. She was there with us for half an hour, and she said this is a very logical thing. And she's a very simple lady. She was a primary school teacher in Gujarat. And she said that just like I prayed to God that Modi should win his election from Varanasi, I will pray to God that there is peace and friendship between India and Pakistan. So the point I'm trying to make is that it is up to the leaderships to decide what kind of relationship you will have. With Nepal, we have had such a cordial relationship. Even though there was some anti-India sentiment present in Nepal even before Modi government came to power, which is there in all the neighboring countries. Just like there is a general overall anti-American sentiment all over the world. Similarly, in India's neighborhood, there is an anti-Indian sentiment, because they view us as a hegemonic power, just like the countries around the world view the United States. So that is not surprising. And Mr. Modi made his first visit to Nepal because I thought that because I think that he thought that Nepal is a Hindu majority nation. It's easier to have a friendly relationship with them, and they made the mistake of trying to interfere in their constitution, and then there was this economic blockade, because of which Nepalis became very angry with India, and then they went closer to China, and the result is there for all of us to see that now we have a dispute with Nepal also, and there has been a firing on the Indo-Nepal border also, and one Indian has been killed. So I think this is a complete failure of Narendra Modi's foreign policy. He has been hailed by his supporters as having enhanced India's prestige all over the world. But I think when it comes to our neighbors, he has been a total failure. Our relationship with all our neighbors has worsened, and we have written an article recently, I and my former student from IIT BHU, Abhay Jain, that these border disputes they go on for a very long time, and they have no easy solution. So maybe now it is time to start thinking about joint management of disputed areas. And there in the history there have been two instances, one between Prussia and Netherlands for almost 100 years, Moresnet district, and then Andorra, which is jointly managed by Spain and France for more than eight centuries now. So something like the disputed area with Nepal, Limpiadhura and Kalapani, this area is very small, and it should have been very easy for India to talk to Nepal and have some kind of joint management of this area. In the India-Pakistan relationship, there was a time when Manmohan Singh was talking about a borderless Kashmir, and what he meant was the border inside the Kashmir, between the two sides of Kashmir, can be made insignificant. People from two sides of Jammu and Kashmir can be allowed to cross the border easily to meet each other, and the army could be withdrawn, at least from the LOC and from the habited areas, and the two countries can jointly manage the socio and economic development of that area. So there was quite a progress on this agenda, but for some unknown mysterious reasons, this solution was scuttled, and then after that the relationships have worsened. But even after that, Narendra Modi had to praise Imran Khan the day he inaugurated the Kartarpur Sahib corridor, because there is a popular sentiment on both sides that people should be allowed to cross the border easily. And I will just end my statement with an incident which happened during a march which we had organized from Delhi to Multan in 2005. When Dr. Arun Mitra had accompanied us during the Ludhiana stretch, and he had organized a grand welcome for us. The police was escorting us in Ludhiana, and Pakistani friends had joined the march in Amritsar. So when we had crossed Ludhiana and we were entering Jalandhar, one man came from behind on a bicycle, and he stopped me and he said, "Are you the organizer of this march?" I said, well, yes. And I thought he would tell me that, "Why don't you come to my Gurdwara and have tea and meal or whatever?" But he said that, your pamphlet, the demands that you have mentioned, there is a mistake in the ordering. And I was perplexed. I was not expecting this kind of feedback from somebody coming on a bicycle and is stopping me in the middle of the road. And I asked him what did he want to say. So he said, you have three demands. You are saying that India and Pakistan should solve their problems bilaterally through talks, and the issue of Kashmir should be solved in accordance with the wishes of people of Jammu and Kashmir. The budget, defense budgets should be reduced. Nuclear weapons should be done away with. We have a long-standing demand of a nuclear weapon-free zone in South Asia. And our third demand was to do away with the passport visa system and allow people to travel freely across the border. And he said your demand number 3 should be demand number 1, because if you can achieve that, then your other two demands will also be easily resolved. And that was such a gem of wisdom. I was taken aback literally by this advice. And I thought to myself that why this common sense thing did not occur to me. So people, it is a fact that there is no animosity between people of India and Pakistan, between people of India and Nepal, between people of India and China. So it is really up to the governments to decide what kind of relationship they want to have. And what we are saying is, if Narendra Modi can choose to descend in Lahore on his way back from Afghanistan and participate in a family function of Nawaz Sharif, why don't our rulers, and he had such a friendly relationship with the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, in Ahmedabad and then in Tamil Nadu. So when the leaders can decide to have a cordial relationship, why don't they have their countries also, have a similar kind of relationship, so that our lives of our soldiers are not lost, and all the disputed territory should be resolved amicably, jointly, and if you cannot resolve them completely, at least you should think about joint management of such disputed areas. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Just stay hold. I'll come back to you, Pandeyji. A common man's wisdom, as you rightly admitted, it has really thrown open our discussion. A common man, how we visualize a small issue culminating solutions to all those major issues. Such a wonderful thing which you have encountered. So I think now you have literally forced me to go to Dr. Arun, because he is the one who has arranged that trip. He has been the host there when you travel to Punjab. Dr. Saab, your audio, kindly check your audio, doctor. Click on that audio. Let the turn green.
When I don't speak, I mute it.
Yeah, that is wonderful, because this noise will not come. So I think Mr. Sandeep Pandey was very categorical and clear as to how you hosted and how a common man with wisdom could tell you what to do so that the complex issues are settled forthwith. Go ahead, sir. You are heading an organization of doctors for peace and development. Peace and development for people. But what so many soldiers are getting killed, right from Pulwama, now this latest skirmishes. 20 soldiers lost their precious lives. Their families are mourning. And for whose sake are we going to have this welfare and development activity? Yes, Dr. Ji.
First of all, I express heartfelt condolences on behalf of our organization to the bereaved families. The soldiers are losing their lives because of fault of the political leadership of the country, because of their jingoistic policies and the present government's basic ideology of Akhand Bharat. Naturally, that has created the situation as we are facing today. In fact, it is all the more important that now we should have a common platform. The SARC is almost dead, but we have to take initiative reviving it, which I don't expect much from this government. I have been going to Nepal several times for some meetings, and there I found that people have a feeling that India is behaving like a brother, the elder, or the big brother, and they have a feeling that India takes Nepal as a very small fry, doesn't bother. I think that was probably the reason when the things were going on in Nepal's parliament, Indian government didn't bother to have a dialogue with Nepal. They thought we can settle the things anytime with Nepal, but that's not going to happen in the present day politics. Yesterday, I was listening to BBC. They were showing that in Pakistan, in the social media, there is a lot of saying that where is the 56 inch ki chhati ab kahan hai? And they were also saying that why not surgical strike by India against China? And they were making a mockery of our Prime Minister. Yesterday, the BBC was showing on this on the TV. So this situation has become very complex. Our organization in International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, IPPNW, has done a study that if a nuclear exchange takes place between India and Pakistan, not China, I'm not talking China, because India and Pakistan have about 150 plus minus nuclear weapons. If that occurs, then 2 billion people would be at risk. Now, if China is involved, it's a very serious affair because China has, I think, 3 or 4 times weapons. We are not sure about that, but it is said so than us, more than us. So in that situation, this border issue that has occurred is a very sad state of affairs. Several articles were appearing in the media by the retired army officers that Chinese soldiers are coming there and they're occupying the land. Even some of the political leaders also had raised this issue, but this government did not bother to say anything. I think it was their weakness, this government's weakness. They could have immediately started a political dialogue a month back or so, then probably this would have not happened. I don't know what are China's postures. I don't know. I have no idea but our government's postures are to be seen now open. They are not in a position to do any surgical strike, not at all, in my opinion. In India also, people in general, in my area at least, have a feeling that we have been subdued by China, but we can't do anything. And I found they do not have that much hatred for China as they have for, you see, Pakistan, but because of the constant poisonous propaganda of Hindu-Muslim issue or Hindu-Pakistan or the India-Pakistan issue by the Indian government, the people have that feeling against it. I mean, so many people, not all, those particularly who are Hindu communalists, they are affected by this. But against China, they do not have that much repulsive feelings. And as far as the business activities goes on, you go to the market, everything is Chinese. So many things, right from clothes to even our religious things, Ganesha Murtis and all these things. Diyas, Deepavali pe jo diye jalte hai, wo bhi. It's not easy to completely shut off the relationship of business. What is needed is a political dialogue. I'm sorry to say that the Prime Minister took almost 40 plus hours to react onto what has happened. He did not bother. We are very sad that we lost a young actor. We are very sad. And the Prime Minister tweeted immediately on that. But here our brave soldiers died. He did not utter a word. Like he did not utter a word when the people were dying on the roads going back to their villages. So their insensitivity is one, and their feeling of this grandiosity, I would say, that they are too big is another. Their arrogance is another. They don't have any humbleness. when some political leaders were asking for information of what is happening on the Indo-China border, they were just uh, are trying to bully them rather through their trawlers, those who were asking such questions. Even some of the media persons, they were also bullied by their trawlers. This is very sad. They have developed this sort of a methodology that anybody asks any question, bully him or her. So this is what is happening. Now at least I'm happy that they have called an all-party meeting. Let us see what happens in that all-party meeting. I think it is time that the civil society has to be very active. We have to educate our people that war in no way is a solution. And I don't think India is going to have war. This is my feeling against China. And Pakistan was different against China. But if the things go worse, we don't know. We don't know. But at the present, I don't think India. That's why our government's reactions are very subdued, very meek. They are not taking any firm position as they were taking against Pakistan on frivolous issues many times. But here they are not. So my feeling that civil society has much more to play through our actions, through our media interactions and other ways, writing to the government. And in our international meetings of the doctors, we get some doctors from China also, and we don't have any problems with them. Even with Pakistan, we don't have any problems. So it is only at the level of this government that the things have gone worse. So it's a big challenge. We have to have peace. In any case, the peace must be ensured because China has nuclear weapons, we have nuclear weapons, Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Unfortunately, we do not have any friends. India has no friends now around. Pakistan is not the friend. China is also gone. China, the Chinese premier who was swinging along with our prime minister is no more the thing. And now Nepal also is gone. Bangladesh also, I went to Bangladesh maybe 2 years back and I found that things are not as cordial as they were a few years back. Sri Lanka is there, but Sri Lanka has relationship with all the people, all the countries around. So it is time that our government has to learn to take initiative. Our Prime Minister went to the non-aligned NAM meeting recently, a few months back. I don't know what was his purpose because they are not using the NAM for the purpose it was made. It was built by Nehru, Tito, and Nasser. They are not acting in the same way. So I think at the end, I would say it is good that a political parties meeting has been called, number one. And number two, I will say the political parties have to take a positive stand. And thirdly, I have to say that civil society has to come forward to take action programs on these issues. Peace issue is becoming all the more important because the common people in India is now realizing how peace is important. We can relate to that if we invest on peace, then we can invest more on COVID because we have to have lots of money and other things for COVID. But if we are wasting money on the war issues, on the defense budget, if we increase so much, then we lose money to fight on the health emergencies. Thank you very much.
So I'll come back to you, Dr. G. I think let me go to Mr. Vijay, and he's General Secretary, Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy. He is an analyst, political commentator, and scholar associated with Carnage Research Network. Mr. Vijayan, now you tell me what is the research you could do out of these activities. Our soldiers are dying, their families lost their near and dear ones, and we talk about welfare and development. In whose interest are these being done when we are losing people like that? And we are again investing, we are changing the rules during Corona also, making sense into defense, foreign direct investments. I think mostly you are aware, we have seen Rafael, what has happened to Anil Ambani's company. He goes to Supreme Court with a begging bowl. He goes to all other allied courts stating that he's broke, but still he gets the Rafael blessings. So they have increased this FDI to 73%. And obviously, it will go to, they have to catch up with China and they have to move on. So one side, this aspect, the other side, the rhetoric, ban Chinese goods and political overtones. But when it comes to official level, as we have seen today, MEA, Ministry of External Affairs briefing is so subdued, so calm, as if nothing has happened. Our commanders have spoken to each other, they are settling it, and our Prime Minister has spoken to their Foreign Minister. And then we are scheduled meeting is their Foreign Minister, Russia, India, and China. What about these precious lives who have lost? Yeah, Mr. Vijay.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Shivaprasad Reddy, for having me in the show. And I'm very honored to be with a very august fellow panel here, Sagar Thara, Dr. Arun, and Dr. Sandeep Pandey. Primarily, I do not belong to political parties, so I do have a perspective about their work, especially the ruling political party and the opposition parties. But at the same time, this is not about politicizing the issue. Secondly, congratulations to you for not doing this show on a boycott China call, or on doing Tibet solidarity, etc., because suddenly the Indian media is all rushing to do Tibet solidarity. Apparently, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock tonight, I think is flooded with Tibet solidarity. I don't know where have poor Tibetans come in the midst of this, because they have been fighting this battle with the autocratic and authoritative Chinese regime as much as the Kashmiris have been fighting a battle with the autocratic and authoritative Indian regime. So the self-determination struggle, be it that of the Tibetans, be it that of the Nagas, be it that of the Baluchis, be it that of the Kashmiris, be it that of the Palestinians, I think if you support them, if you stand in solidarity, then that has to be across the plate, even if it's at the cost of your own nationalism. And I think this fraud Tibetan solidarity, this fraud Chinese boycott, thank you for not doing a show on that, and thank you for not doing a shootout, shouting down version of debate here. Primarily, we do have an unintelligent government, and I think this is where it has to start. And my fellow panelists have already said this in as many ways as they could. They came to power through a complete use of the rhetoric of Javan's army and militarization as political tools. So sitting in 2020, we have been made into a bunch of lumpen people who think that, if they tell us when demonetization happens, the soldiers are standing in the border, when, Kashmir is happening, all that you are told is not the misery of your fellow citizens, not the misery of your fellow citizens, but only the story that an armed militarized state has built up, then we are actually getting into a complete mess about this phenomenon called militaristic nationalism. When somebody asked me about, the lives that were lost of the migrant workers who were fleeing cities, how much should be a fair compensation? I said, it's already settled. It's already settled simply because when Pulwama happened, the government of India said 3 crores to every CRPF soldier. Every Indian has to have that value. Who are we to say that a migrant worker's contribution is less to this nation building? Why are we building this entire thing based on uniforms and militarization as a core? We have to change this perspective about nationalism itself. Our nationalism has to be about the Indian people. Each one of us, each one of the toiling masses in India contribute to building this nation. So it's not about what job we do. It's about, do we do it honestly? It's about, do we do it correctly? It's about, are we accountable for what we are doing? If a military commander or a military general is not accountable and is playing to the tune of a political establishment at the cost of risking the lives of Javans, I do not have respect for that military commander. He's not nationalistic. It's as simple as that. This government has a policy that we have enough people to waste. This is the second point that I want to make. In the 5 years, the first 5 years of this government, we have lost 5 times the number of soldiers compared to the previous regime from 2009 to 2014. So mark it, 2014 to 2019, we lost 5 times the number of soldiers compared to the previous regime. Why is it that there is no question about this? Why is it that we are not realizing and shouting from the rooftop that this government is a coffin nationalist government? They are fraud about the... I don't want to politicize this. This is not about politicizing. This is a citizen challenging his government, saying that you have a coffin nationalistic policy. You are happy when our soldiers are killed because it serves you political interest. You, all that you bother about are election winning. Bihar is turning up. Bengal is turning up. You need soldiers to sacrifice their lives. This is the simple, plain truth about this government. And I think as many Indians say it, the more we will make sense and the more we will be heard. My third point is that we mourn the soldiers. And I stand with every fellow citizen in this country mourning the lives of the soldiers. But any memorial for them, any tear for them, any candlelight for them is a waste if we do not get justice for the unwanted sacrifice of the soldiers who messed up the Galvin issue. As a country, we have the right to know who messed up the Galvin issue, and till the time that response is sought, Dr. Shiva Prasad Reddy, all of us will be equally responsible and complacent with this government in taking the lives of each of our soldiers for granted. And Lieutenant Governor S.S. Panag actually made a very, very strong statement. I don't know, some of you may have seen it. He's someone who I have great respect along in the League of Admiral Ramdas and a lot of other men and women. Unfortunately, it's a large number of men who have led because it is a patriarchal warfare system that we have, unfortunately. So General S.S. Panag said, for the first time in the history of Indian Army, a commanding officer has been clubbed to death. This is a plain and simple murder by the Chinese troops. Our soldiers, now listen to this part. He says, our soldiers wouldn't have gone unarmed to Chinese posts. There was definitely a political direction because military will never roam around at night without arms. I would definitely request General Panag to step up and say, tell us, we have not been soldiers, we have been civilians all our lives. We do sleep with the faith that our country and our borders are secured, as much with the faith that our people are not killed by the same soldiers, or the women in Kashmir are not raped by the same soldiers, in the name of a nationalism that has been constructed by this Hindutva ultra-nationalist force called the BJP. And I think this border dispute question, I mean, I completely agree with Dr. Sandeep Pandey's point and what Dr. Arun said. The border disputes, I want to state one more thing, that the border disputes are a colonial hangover. India's borders have been determined by, absolutely ruthless methodologies of flying over these borders. I don't know if you know about the, the border on the northeast of India called the McMahon Line. People flew over these areas and decided somebody's kitchen is in India and somebody's kitchen is in Burma, and I mean somebody's living room is in Burma. I mean, people have been completely done away with in these deals. People have never been cared for, is this plain truth of it. Colonial, post-colonial masters have not given people their due. It is time that people demand that due and take it from these guys. Otherwise, they are going to show us more coffins. And, the successive governments, including the Congress government, never could settle the border issues for India. And during the last 6 years, mind you, during the last 6 years, this government headed by Mr. Narendra Bhai Damodar Das Modi has made matters miserable for every neighbor, leading to a situation whereby they are today up in arms. A country like Nepal says, enough is enough. Listen to them. They are saying enough is enough. It's not about China. It's not about whether we fear China and we can play around with Nepal, whether we fear Pakistan, we can play around with Sri Lanka. This is madness that we have tolerated these guys getting away with this for so many years. And my last point is that this government has comprehensively failed, and we need to say this. They have failed on the economy, they have failed on defense, they have failed on international relations, they have failed the society. The level of communal polarization existing in India has never existed even during the partition days. I mean, Hindus, 80% of this country are being told that you have something to fear, to the extent that we think that Nepal is a natural ally because it's a Hindu Rashtra. Like, what is happening to our foreign relations altogether is a mess. There's a complete takeover by crony capitalists. Thank you, Dr. Shiva Prasad Reddy, for saying it. You have categorically pinpointed your fingers on the crony capitalists, be it Reliance, be it this new boy in the club, Mr. Adani. Mr. Gautam Adani has gotten away with 70% of India's ports. Hello, are we talking about somebody who has had a clear past as a smuggler, owning 70% of India's ports? What national sovereignty and security are we talking about? This country has been made a mockery, and I think we need to call the spade a spade. I mean, massacre of soldiers, I think, is a comfortable position, because Rajnath Singh said in 2013, ridiculing the last government, I mean, the UPA government, saying that they have, I mean, he almost said that they don't have balls. I mean, it's not a question of befitting replies and, you know, now shouting over each other. We need accountability and justice for those soldiers killed. And I would not say 20 soldiers. I will say we need accountability and justice for every soldier injured or killed, be it the China border, be it the Pakistan border, be it the Burma border, be it the people who are getting killed in inlands of India. Because if this government believes that they can get away by sacrificing our soldiers to win elections, they need to be taught a lesson. They need to be brought down. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Kindly hold the line, Mr. Vijayan. Now let me come to Mr. Sagar Dara. Insolvency petitions, Mr. Adani and Mr. Ambani. The same group hold very good investments in China and vice versa into their organizations. Now you see the politicking, it is very obvious and very clear. They go to court and they are successfully out, and they get again targeted loans, finances from everywhere, and they are a happy-go-lot, enjoying all the freedom in spite of looting Indian taxpayers' money, and Indian public are being mortgaged. So what is happening in the border? Border skirmishes, innocent soldiers' lives are lost or they are injured. And again, internally, what is this cross-border terrorism? Many innocents are losing their lives along with the brave soldiers, and vice versa. How do you look at these borders? Borders and borders, but inside there is a capitalist loot of every bank, of every finance, and they are the ones who are the lead players in China also. Let me also remind people of that free offer of 1,500 rupees and that cell phone which Jio, hitherto Reliance, the same infrastructure he carries, he takes over from Anil Ambani, and he goes to court and files insolvency petition. And from where did we get all these phones, those free telephones? That people have to understand all these rhetorics. They are making money, our soldiers losing lives. We are on the roads, we have seen migrants, and we have done so many shows through you, Mr. Sagar Dara, and we got even farmers on our show across India. Gujarat having 6 lakhs in his Samakya, what he commented. Hundreds of crores they are losing. Nothing is happening. It's all rhetoric, cosmetics in their own Kobel with their media. How do you look at this? And their media, again, let me remind you, they are sponsored by the same Vivo and all those electronic companies. Till the other day now, I don't know whether they are being done with the same or not. Sagar Dara, I think you have to click your audio.
Yeah, thank you. Let me start by saying that today's news says basically that some 40 Chinese soldiers also lost their lives. I don't know how far that is true. Whether Chinese soldiers lost their lives or not, certainly, you know, it's tragic that Indian soldiers have lost their lives, and in the event that some Chinese also lost their lives, that is also a tragic event. I think it's unnecessary, totally needless. And like Vijayan said, there is a lot of political play going on, and that needs to be actually figured out as to what is happening. I will take a slightly more distant viewpoint, but I will start with a story, because borders, let us start understanding what is a border.
Yeah.
Borders exist both in biotic life. A cell wall is a border. So it differentiates between one state of being from another state of being. That is what a cell wall is all about. Okay. Now,
Yep.
in society too, you have borders. And I want to start with a small story. I was traveling 40 years back for the first time in the Himalayas. And somewhere not very far from Almora, I checked into some small place, to spend the night. And, I stayed in a place which didn't have a door. So I asked the owner of this place, I said, why don't you have a door? He said, we don't have any thieves out here. He said it beautifully in Hindi. He says, wo sab chor chapate jo hain Haldwani ke aage hain, yahan to koi chor nahi hai. Okay. So basically a border essentially differentiates between two states. And in human society, it differentiates between them and us. Okay. And we didn't have borders, 5,000 years back, we just didn't have borders. It's only with the onset of slavery and therefore private property that you have had the creation of borders, and borders were vague and fuzzy. It was like, from that hill to this river. Now, where exactly that hill is and where exactly this river, and that two rivers have, shifting riverbeds, was up to the people then to define. And why did they require borders, basically? As long as agriculture was a collective activity, there was no your field and my field, it was our field. And if you look at India even today, a whole lot of areas in the northeast, or for that matter of fact, even small portions of Punjab, when the British came, the East India Company, they didn't know how to deal with the lands which were cultivated collectively. And so they came up with Zamindari, and at some point beyond Mirzapur, they found that it didn't work too well. So they came up with two other systems. One was Royatwari, which, a lot more people know about. But you had the Mehalwadi system, where basically land was cultivated collectively, and there were no borders like your land and my land. It was village land, essentially. And the tax was on the village as a whole. Okay, so I'm trying to make the point that borders are essentially meant to protect the use of resources by one set of people. That is what borders are all about. Okay, borders keep on changing, and they keep on changing depending on who's got a mightier sword, or who's more politically astute, or who marries into which family on the other side of the border. And if you look at borders, they change so frequently. They've changed so frequently in India or in South Asia. There was no India, or in South Asia, or for that matter of fact, Europe and so on, over the last several centuries. Now, ultimately, it is the border is basically saying that, listen, I want to harvest the resources in the area within this border, and then I keep on trying to expand, because basically you try to take over some other territory and try to harvest the resources from there, primarily energy resources or water resources, etc., etc., etc. The point is very simple. Sometime back, I delivered the Dr. Abhidat Majumdar Memorial Lecture and talked about water conflicts. And in researching for this sometime back, what I discovered was that water conflicts go through three phases. One, when there's a lot of water, there is no conflict really, because there is enough for everybody. And you have a second stage when obviously you have, water shortages of some sort, and it goes through some conflict. And what happens is it gets resolved either through some kind of, let us say, adjudication or arbitration. And that's what's happened, for example, on the Indus, in the Indus Water Treaty. That's what has happened, for example, on the Kaveri River. And I was in fact, in Bangalore when the Namakaveri slogan suddenly came up some 3.5 years back. Namakaveri means my Kaveri, our Kaveri, And the logic of actually the Kannadigas is that Kaveri starts from Talakaveri in Kodagu district. So all the water is ours. And if we let any water go to Tamil Nadu, it's because of our, we are good people. That is why. The Tamil Nadu, and there they use a particular American, legal doctrine to reinforce this thing and they argue in the Supreme Court. And the Tamil Nadu people, they use an exactly opposite debate needs to be sort of now had. Of course, in a far more, let's say, understandable way than the way that I'm putting it right now. But we need to talk about internationalism. And I often say this when I'm accosted by people who are ultra-nationalistic. When they say you're not nationalistic, I say I'm as nationalistic as you are. Or for that matter of fact, why aren't you as internationalist as I am? Ultimately, what is the difference between me and an African or me and an American? Or where does this Americanism come from? After all, people went into America just 15,000 years back. Or for that matter of fact, people went into into Australia just 45,000 years back. Now, 45,000 years or 15,000 years is a minuscule amount compared to the 2 lakh years that we have existed as modern humans. Okay, so the concept of border, in fact, I take it back to the question of energy. Borders are ultimately areas which you define where you try to extract energy. Until 300 years back, nobody had a passport or a visa. And essentially, you went to where energy was. It's only in the last 300 years, ever since industrialism began, since the Industrial Revolution began, that energy began to come to where humans are by shipping oil, coal, and things of the sort. And as an engineer, I find it so inefficiently wasteful, because literally you are spending 15 to 17% of your energy resource just on shipping things around the place. We need to go back to the concept that people should go to where energy is, which is what happened, in fact, for nearly 70,000 years. That's how the whole migration of human society happened. So we need to bring in an element of history and science into this whole thing, and talk about the need to move towards first soft borders like what European Union did, despite all the cultural problems and difficulties, and ultimately to move towards no borders whatsoever.
Yes, no borders whatsoever. Let me go to Sandeep Pandey. He's a very good rationalist. I have read his articles. I was just going through once again so that I should not miss any point. European Union, they tried, but again, you have seen Britain, how Britain was trying to move away. And here we have a peculiar situation wherein we have China and Pakistan, no human rights absolutely whatsoever. At least in India, we do have, but at times we are politically motivated, controlled, because the rhetorics rule the day, and their own henchmen in the form of, unfortunately, the media is under the control and clutches of political parties, or their isms, or their contractor turned, their businessmen turned, industrialists turned, so on and so forth, controlling the media, stifling the voice and the message which comes out of that. The information which comes out of such is prejudiced or controlled, and it suits whatever suits to them or their rulers, only that is disseminated, unfortunately. When such is the scenario in India, and you have seen there are human rights violations to the core when you say China, and the same applies to Pakistan also, because even I have toured Pakistan, I've seen what life is there very clearly. So how do you look at this scenario when our neighbors are being surrounded by such? Mr. Sandeep Pandey. Just that audio, you click on the audio before you speak. That will turn green. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Please repeat that question. Because
you said border, soft borders, no borders. European Union we have seen, but how Brexit how Brexit happened with United Kingdom trying to move away. One currency euro, now another pound. They could not gel. But in spite of that, all the other countries still continue. Post-corona, I think they should become very strong now. What happened
Yeah.
with the health of every country? And now here, very unfortunate situation in and around Indian subcontinent. China, no human rights. Pakistan, we have told and we have seen. Basic information doesn't reach a common man. Here, India, we do have plenty of freedom, but at times it has become rhetoric. Whatever rulers want, through their media, sponsored by their industrialist lobby, they control the information. Either it is which suits them, only that is propagated and the global policy applies, or else there is no proper information at all. People are not well informed. Thanks to Corona and this social media, even a journalist like us, we have nothing against anyone. We are able to source and do the shows using the technology and using this medium. So how do you look? Indian subcontinent India is surrounded by China and Pakistan. No human rights. And when we talk about borders, do we expect they will have a humane concern? We have seen how barbaric they were how savaging they were in killing our soldiers on 15th night.
So, if I get your question right, you are saying that it was possible to have a European Union because they were more or less homogeneous kind of countries, whereas here it may be difficult because the character of the governments is different in different countries, and you are saying that there are no human rights in China and Pakistan. If that is the question, and if I have understood it correctly, then the difference will always exist. Even inside India, you have so much difference. I mean,
that also got it. That also, I think you have missed that also. I said even India, though we have freedom, the information common man is very controlled because the parties are having their media channels and papers, and now whoever is ruling, they are controlling the media through their crony industrialists. Though they go to court with insolvency petitions, but they still control media, through which dissemination of information which suits to the rulers only that is given. I said thanks to social media and Corona, journalists like us are able to source it in a proper way without any personal enmity or party animosity. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, this is very good that we are able to do this, but unfortunately, we are not able to impact the public opinion. I mean, what the voices, like what you are hearing on this particular show, are very little, and the audience, the listeners or the viewers of such channels and such media are not very large. That is a very unfortunate aspect of it. But I'm sure the voice of reason will prevail ultimately, and good sense will prevail, and it is only what we are witnessing in the United States, a president who seemed to be invincible, and somehow the United States are also in a similar situation as in India, where a right-wing president was dominating the politics, and people just didn't know how to counter his politics. But something happened in Chicago, and because of which the entire scenario has changed. So I think, personally, I think that time has already arrived with the government trying to change the Citizenship Amendment Bill. I mean, if you look at the protests which happened during against CA and NRC, some months back, they were of national character, even though the participation and extent to which the masses should have been involved was not that great, but the issue was affecting everybody's life, and it was an issue which the government did not know how to handle. And if it was not for the coronavirus crisis, the government would not have been able to end the protests which were going on, organized by the Muslim women. Something like that, can trigger a process through which we can regain the democratic values in this country, where people will have the kind of freedom they should have, the kind of freedom that the fundamental rights that our constitution guarantees, the right of freedom to expression and other things. So yes, you are right that India is different in this matter from China and Pakistan, but so far as the social culture is concerned, South Asia does have a common kind of social culture, and yes, the political system is somewhat different in different countries, but because of the kind of cultural sharing that these countries enjoy, I think South Asia with a porous, soft, or even a no border, is a possibility which can happen, and if the leaders are willing, if they have the political will to do that. Thank you.
You mean to say, it is the political will of the leadership that matters. But I'll go back to him, like he's attending. I'll come to Mr. Vijayan. Is it the political will of the leadership which has to pave way for such union, Mr. Vijayan? But at the same time, we have seen the Mr. Sandeep ji. I said, is it the political will of the leadership?
Yeah, political will of leaders in anything is very important. As I said earlier, whether it is the relationship between the countries or the kind of system that you want to have in the country, it is very unfortunate that the present regime doesn't believe in democracy and is slowly killing all our democratic institutions. But what I meant to say was that ultimately people will tolerate it only to a particular point. And just like in the United States, we see now people have come out on the street and are opposing the racist policies of the police or the system there. People can come together and resist the kind of processes which the government has unleashed, which involves the communal politics, the taking away of the human rights of activists, and targeting the Muslims and the Dalits, minorities. So all these things which are happening, I think they will only go on up to a particular point, and after that the people will resist. So I have hope, and I feel that the things inside the country will also change, and when the internal politics of the country will change, then we will also see a change in our relationships with our neighbors and other countries. It is just unfortunate that the kind of politics which is governing our country right now is taking us downhill, both internally as well as externally.
So one thing to sustain your argument, don't you think it is majoritism and minoritism by political parties and this vote bank rhetoric and the way they try to entice emotions of people on any given issue, whether it is this side, that side, or center. Don't you think even political parties are responsible, whether it is NRC or whatever it is? They could have debated, discussed. But you do something in parliament and you come out and roads, you confuse. And how do you look at this scenario? Even common man, as you rightly said, everyone is affected.
Yeah.
As you rightly said, my show may be a small. As you said, the protest against NRC, though it was not mass attraction, it was a hit. Similarly, this show is also like that. From here, we could do so many things. So how do you look at the political party scenario? When yourself, when you say he's a minority, he's a Dalit, you are identifying them by caste and religion. And from where you get the nationalism spirit going? Don't you think there should be some change in the perspective of political parties addressing the issues?
So yes, the political parties are also influenced by the majoritarian politics which is going on at this point in time. But fortunately, if you look at the numbers, the number of people who have voted this current government to power, it is still well below 50%. So which means that the people who are actually putting them into power are in minority. And it just happens that with the help of the media and various other institutions, the courts and the election commission and the CBI and other things, they have created an impression as if they are controlling this system very tightly. They have a stranglehold over the system. But because they don't have the numbers with them who vote for them during elections, the majority of the people are still on the other side. We think that some political incident can turn the tide and hopefully create a wave which will reverse the present trend. So that is the hope that that we have. So at this time, you are right. The political parties seem to be paralyzed, but this country has seen how everybody was galvanized, against Indira Gandhi when she imposed emergency. So when something like that happens, then I think everybody will come together. Everybody who is opposed to the communal fascist agenda of the Bharatiya Janata Party and who are not able to oppose openly at this time because of various reasons, because they have to save their own politics and they don't want to be targeted by the ruling establishment at this time. I mean, look at how the BJP, the Congress president in Uttar Pradesh was in jail for no reason. So for various reasons, the political parties are not taking on the current regime, but something can turn the tide, and then people will come together to oppose this kind of politics.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think, I hope you still have time for the next round. I'll just finish it with the next round. Yeah, Dr. G, you just switch on here.
Yes.
So good Samaritans are lacking in the opposition political parties. A turnaround has to come with some issue. Why is the ruling government targeting politicians? Is it because of corruption scandals? We have seen Lalu Prasad to Shashikala. Because of their weaknesses? Are those sponsoring them, such political parties, earning in a different way, dubious way? Or because they have been catering to casteist and their communal agenda, whether it is minority or SC, ST, BC, has this taken a stage wherein this ruling front now, whether it is NDA or BJP you call, is on the upsurge, trying to control all such leads?
I think we have to understand that till date, we have been having change of power within the same system. Any political party coming into power at the center or in the states. But now this time, it is not just a change of a political party or power, but total ideological shift that they want to bring into Indian political scene and Indian society. That is why we are saying that anyone who not only disagrees with them but raises even a small point, even a minor point, he or she is dubbed as anti-national or something. So I think we have to view the present political rulers in that context. Their ideology of Hindutva and demonizing others, we all know. And they are very, in a very planned way, they are acting to go to that agenda and carry it forward. Even though they've got much less than 50% vote, but as the political system is, they are in power with majority. And they have taken some other parties along with who are not questioning their ally, their big ally at all. This is a very sad state. Even the opposition parties are not questioning the way they should have. Agreed that the media is controlled by the rulers, the present. I would say maybe 90 or maybe 95% media is being controlled by them, and then they will not give any viewpoint of others rather than those in the power at present. But still, there are other forums where the political parties can act, social activists can go to the people, civil society can act. And in the present scenario, I think some political parties have taken a back seat completely. In Uttar Pradesh, I really wonder why there is no talk by the two major political parties who were there in ruling for quite some time. They are just quiet over any issue.
CBI
don't
cases
utter
hunting
a-
them. CBI cases hunting them,
True,
both
true,
father and
that's
son.
So Sam Dam Dand Ved. So every way they are using to suppress the people, to make them quiet. But you see, those who have to speak, they will not stop. They are not bothered about jails or any atrocities. They will keep on. Our women have showed us the way during anti-CAA protests, that how the burqa-clad women, they were on the streets, something unexpected till date. That is how when the public reacts, some situation may come when the public may react. Of course, it's a very sad state that when the people were walking for hundreds of kilometers to reach their native places, the middle class people, they felt sympathy for them, but they didn't react. It's very sad. It's very sad this is happening in our society. Unlike the reaction of the American people when a black man is targeted by the police. Here, very sad that some people already hungry, not getting food, they are beaten by the police, the people not reacting. I don't know how much time it will take, but people have at least started now realizing that things are not as good as they should have been. There is a talk among the people, particularly after the failure of the government in tackling the COVID crisis is coming up, and the Supreme Court's directions and the reprimand to the governments yesterday or day before yesterday, they are there. So people are now realizing how long our society, very tolerant society. We are told to be tolerant. It is good to be tolerant, but it is bad to be tolerant for too long. We have to speak when the wrong things are done, and maybe in due course of time, the political leadership, some voices have already started coming up. Voices from those who were dubbed by these people and they were trolled very badly. Now they have started speaking. Some parties are already speaking. continuously. I think that time the trade unions are speaking. I would say trade unions are speaking. That's a good thing. Trade unions, 54 crore workers in this country, their representatives have been speaking continuously, organizing actions. That's a good thing. So the peasants are speaking. We have seen the farmers' protest on the streets. We have seen them. The government's bill to own the lands of the farmers that they could not do because of the protest by the farmers in large number. So like that, you see, so many sections are now coming up on different issues. I am an incorrigible optimist. When it occurs that the people speak up in large number, collectively, that the time will tell. Our society moves very slowly we move. But I think we will. And this agenda, this communal, divisive, authoritarian agenda by these arrogant people will soon, their graph is already coming down. Let us be clear, their graph is coming down. Thank you.
Right. Their graph is coming down, Mr. Vijayan. But how good the other political parties are, because even they are divided. You have seen, as you rightly mentioned, one example. Some parties, they do vote politicking on the basis of caste. Others, they say minority. A party like Congress has become a minority party now. It doesn't represent, because it could not get even 10% of seats to get the honorable opposition status. And the majority party, as say right wing, they have succeeded even in UP as to how they could win over casteist as well as the mindset of the religious minded parties also. So how do you think that these parties, already driven with so many cases, corruption cases, we have seen Lalu Prasad Yadav still in the jail, Shashikala, southern region. I'm mentioning only two, there are many cut across. Don't you think because of their adventurism, ignoring public will, public prosperity, the way they went around when they were in ruling, now they have become an easy tool for this government to get their agenda going, in spite of so many odds, right from economic recession, unemployment, now health issue, corona issue so badly managed. And during corona, how we have been mentioning these migrant laborers as the ambassadors of development. They were dying literally. They could not do anything. Now you see these border skirmishes. Precious lives are being lost. But the same rhetoric, ban Chinese products, while the other end, government is very subdued in its official response. Why this ambiguity?
I don't know. We haven't, interacted much, but I would actually like to. I'm very grateful to Sagar for actually speaking what he said. I mean, this whole civilizational question, from the time human beings have been reduced to protecting borders and nation states, we have become like. I think we shouldn't blame animals, but we have become much worse than animals. And there's this unnecessary sense of, some sort of emotional beings that we become suddenly when we talk about all this. And be it poets, be it anybody else, you find very less people like Faiz Ahmad Fayaz or Habib Jalib Saab, जो बोल सकते थे कि हम नहीं मानते, हम नहीं जानते. I mean, I will not accept the structure of a constitution that that pulls me down as some sort of a being inside a well. Let me come back to the question that you asked. One is, I'm, despite having opposed the regimes and coming from a tradition of organizations like Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy that I represent, we have existed for 26 years. We were there when the Kargil war happened. Friends like Arun Saab or Sandeep Bhai, Sagar, all of them have worked in different capacities, have associated with the forum. as a membership-based citizens platform that has existed for 26 years between India and Pakistan. We were there. We were born out of the communal tensions that started in the 93 post-Babri Masjid demolition and the communal riots in Bombay and UP, etc. I mean, today when you look back, the pre-2014 era looks like had some sanity to itself at least. I'm being very honest in saying this. It had some sanity. We had corruption, we had nepotism, we had crony capitalism, we had all sorts of issues. We had liberalization that was imposed upon the people of this country by Dr. Manmohan Singh when he was the finance minister of Narasimha Rao. It was not a consultant for action. The people of India were taken for a ride without knowing what the consequences were. But we still had some sense of democracy. We still had some sanity in our society. We were not living like constantly under this fear of somebody else is going to kill me all the time. That sanity is lost. Now, do I want to be sitting and talking about Lalu Prasad Yadav being corrupt or not, or whether the son-in-law of the Gandhi family is a corrupt contractor or not? I don't care. My country is gone to the dogs. This is my problem today. I don't care whether Anbaragans or whoever DMKs and the corrupt forces in this country, whether they are up to the mark or not. My question is that, are my people, the people of India, ready to take on this challenge and say that if we don't have a political opposition, we will do lives matter? If black people can stand up again and again in times in history, I think we also have it in us to stand up and say that we will not take this lying down now. Like Nepal said, enough is enough. So I think, I completely stand with, I said earlier also, I'm grateful to Saga for making that civilizational intervention about, holding on to this nation states. I could have been born on the other side of the border. Any of us could have been born into any religion, any race, any caste. So at the end of the day, let us actually go back to believing that we are all blacks. And as Saga said, we are all Africans. And I think it's important for the human race today to sustain itself. If it wants to make some progress in a sensible direction, then I think it has to start believing that we were all black. But that point apart, I think people also sometimes end up getting what they choose. But today, the Indian people probably are realizing that what they have chosen for, especially when we claim to be a democracy, is something that is making irreparable losses to our country, its economy, its defense, its international relations, everything, as I said. And all my fellow panelists have said this repeatedly. We should not be complacent with it anymore. Forget being complicit. We should not be complacent. It's going to be very, very, because we are losing it. We are losing it as an intelligent democracy. That's the problem. We forget being a democracy, forget being anything close to it. We are losing the basics of intelligent democracy. Look at what Ramdas Athavale said. I'm completely ashamed of this guy claiming to be from a party that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar started. And sitting there and saying that Chinese food joints should be banned, that Chinese food serving restaurants should be banned. I mean, what kind of intelligence are we talking about? This is absolute loss of sense, common sense in this country. And people are claiming to be ministers and...
Yeah, that is why I had to read out the list so that at least we will sensitize them as to what they are speaking. And not only that, now, as you rightly said, what choice people have. I was trying to reflect that right from Yadavs in Uttar Pradesh to Bihar, Yadavs, again we have seen Shashikala's or Jayalalitha's, when they are going behind bars, as you rightly said, the Congress party is also being threatened because of those cases. What choice people have? Where should people go? How should people react? The other side, we have seen China and Pakistan. Every day we hear about no humanity, the barbaric attacks. There is no human rights or human values respected. In such a scenario, what should we be doing? Because you have researched. Then I want you to stay only because you have researched everything, and I want your voice to go to people of India. They should be aroused. Yeah, Mr. Vijay.
No, Dr. Shivrprasad, I mean, through your show, the TSPR show, I want to make a specific request and a demand to the people. And I think I am not talking about just the people of India. The people of China are also being taken for a ride. I mean, this is what our governments are capable of. I mean, on the one hand, you can call that a communist autocratic regime. I don't even know what to call these guys, because they have taken their people, our people, for granted, be it Pulwama, be it demonetization, be it anything. They have literally taken this country and the people for granted. So I don't even know what to call them. But I have a request to the people of China and India, which is that, let our governments know in whatever way possible, be it even standing in front of a video camera and making a statement, but at least let them know, we don't want to see any more coffins. What needs to be sorted out at a diplomatic level, at the highest level of political intervention and conversation, should be sorted out through dialogue and not through medieval ancient means of clubbing people to death. This is insanity that's prevailing. We need to stop insanity first. There is no question of any befitting reply. I mean, Bob Dylan sang this much earlier, saying, how many dead bodies do you want to see to realize that too many people have died? Why should India take its soldiers for granted? Why should all this, people be sitting, anchors be allowed to sit in channels and shout out for more blood? I think we have to become sane first. We have to say that our soldiers are precious, their soldiers are precious. What can be sorted out through a dialogue? This government has messed it up, but I still hope and hold that the highest officers of the Indian Army and the highest officers of bureaucracy of defense in this country and foreign affairs will still stand up and try and bring some sanity to have a conversation and dialogue between these two countries to sort this out. I don't want to count more dead bodies. This is not a competition to show how many coffins China has and how many coffins India has. And I think that's the first request, that please, in whatever form, that we don't want to see more coffins. Tell our governments this, and tell them that we will not get emotionally blackmailed into a war frenzy. Let us please understand that warmongering has only brought us more coffins and not peace or lasting solutions. The Galvin issue cannot be solved by the army. It has to be, if it's F5 to F8 that matters, it has to be talked at the political level. It cannot be, and it is never solved by the army. The army is there to keep the posts. The army is never to sort it out with the other army. We are not military regimes here. And I think the F5 to F8 is very important. Strategically, let us look at it. It is an important point. It's like holding on to Siachen. There is no human life there. I mean, it's not about people living there or protecting them or anything. These are geographical terrains that you're talking about. There is a river in between. It's entirely rocked. That place is like, I mean, you can't walk in those places, forget traveling in a vehicle. It may be strategically important. I often refuse to understand what is strategically important, but at the same time, I'm accepting that, okay, it may be strategically important, but not worth a single life of a civilian or a military person. We need to underline this and understand diplomacy as such. And if April to May, your government waited and waited to see these many dead bodies, bring down that government. There is no compromise about this. They are squarely responsible for the lives of our soldiers, and they should be held to accountability.
Wonderful. Just hold the line, Mr. Vijayan. I'll let you go. We'll have a small round, last one, not beyond. And I would like to go to Mr. Sagar Dara, and then we'll have a last round. We'll finish it off. Mr. Sagar Dara, you have seen our guests have been very rhetoric. At one side, human lives are important, but the latest Sukhoi and all MIG's mix are being ordered. The government is planning to order from Russia, and you see the insensitiveness. On 23rd, there is a meeting scheduled in between the foreign ministers of Russia, India, RIC we call, and China. Now, Russia, we are planning to buy And again, we are holding a meeting along with China. How do you look at this?
Madness. I mean, we did some, let me make 3 major points out here. Quite a while back, we got into doing energy computations, and we discovered that actually 10% of the total energy consumption in the world is because of spending on standing armies and defense. Another 10% actually is on flying all over the world and the use of private surface vehicles. That means, cars and boats and things of that sort. Okay. Now, given the fact that fossil fuels are going to get over in less than 100 years, in fact, in about 50 years, we are in big time trouble. Oil is going to get over and gas is going to get over, and there is no replacement. While coal reserves are supposed to last 100 years, they will actually barely last about 50 to 60 years, because it's going to become more difficult actually to get coal from the deeper seams. There is no replacement. I mean, people, don't look at these things. Whether PV can actually replace, it can't. We've gone into many of these questions as researchers. It can't. There isn't enough wind. The total wind capacity is only 5% of current consumption. So what is going to happen is actually geology and climate. These are 2 issues which are going to bring human civilization to the brink of collapse. And that's going to happen within the century. The third factor that is going to intervene is a galloping inequality that's happening both between countries as well as within countries. If you look at Piketty's work, recent work, that's exactly what it is showing. So what it is not political will, or political parties are going to become, in fact, outdated dinosaurs in a short while, in a few decades, 2-3 decades. The current politics that you see, the political parties that you see, and the political structures that you see, these are going to become irrelevant because of the galloping crises that we are moving towards. It's either collapse or good sense prevails. And I fear that what is going to happen is a further nationalism that is going to take hold all over the world. You can already see that happening in Europe, in Northern America, even in Southern America, to that extent here in South Asia, and so on. So as we move towards collapse, we are going to see a further rightward shift in global politics. And only 2 things can happen at that point, that if there is a scramble for energy and water resources, and water wars are on the cards within the next 10 to 15 years. If there is a scramble, particularly for water and energy, either the collapse will be heightened or good sense will prevail, and that good sense will be from outside the political parties as they exist today. It'll be from people themselves who will say, we want a complete change of the system. And that's not going to happen uniformly all across the world as I see it. It's going to happen in pockets. And that is where the whole transition is going to be fairly chaotic and probably, in a sense, anarchic. And that is where I see, for example, the non-Abrahamic religions playing a role. The reason I bring in this aspect of the whole thing is because Abrahamic religions have an inherent tendency to dominate, to say that I know, and you follow, kind of a thing. The non-Abrahamic religions, particularly in the case of Hinduism, and mind you, I'm an atheist, okay? And being an atheist, I still see the non-Abrahamic religions having a positive potential in this whole thing, because they allow for pluralism to exist. That's what Hinduism has done with Advait and Dvait. It has never propagated itself. It has never propagated itself the way that, for example, the Abrahamic religions have done through physical conquest. And this is where I see that if better sense prevails amongst those in the non-Abrahamic religions, like Buddhism or Hinduism or the other Eastern religions, that we need to cooperate and we need to stress our common humanity first rather than nationalism. That is when things will change for the better. But unfortunately, the way I see things, we have a slide, and either that slide will be completed and human society will be decimated within the next century. Just 2 days back, in fact, IITM brought out their document. It's a 250-page document on their assessment of what climate change is going to do to India, not in terms of impacts, but temperature and precipitation changes. And their forecast, it's a 250-page document, but I quickly looked at the introduction. Their forecast, in fact, is darker than I thought it would be. We all knew that this document was coming out. They're talking about a 4 to 4.5 degree temperature rise in India by the turn of this century. Now, some of the, in a recent paper I wrote, that in the Ganga Delta, in the Ganges Delta, Ganges Brahmaputra Delta, Sundarbans area, that sea rise will be 4 meters. It's a published paper now, That turned out correct. There the IITM assessment is that there's going to be a 3.3 meter rise, whereas globally everybody was saying, oh, it's going to be 1 meter, by the turn of the century. So we're going to see very difficult times, and these very difficult times hopefully will make us see sense. If we don't see sense, goodbye human society.
Goodbye to human society. Let me come to you, Mr. Sandeep Pandeyji, before we wind up. Last minute comments from your side. As a political party, Socialist Party of India, how do you look at this scenario now? People should become wisdom personified, as Mr. Sagar Dara himself is acknowledging. We have everything in our religions, and people will have to overcome such scenarios when, as you rightly said, ultra-nationalism or befitting one ruling front prevails. It's the people will, because the political parties seem, the opposition political parties seem to be very divided. Either they are being projected as casteist or minority supporting or other brand of politics, which is suiting their own state. That means totally regionalized. In this scenario, what should people really be looking forward to? Because when such precious lives like our soldiers or migrant laborers, farmers, right, even the journalists, because of corona, now health issue, now commit trains, we have mosquito bites, dengue, malaria, then through flies, gastrointestinal disorders, typhoids, everything. How do you look at this scenario? Where should we go? Then the unemployment, rampant unemployment, suicides of unemployed youth.
Yeah. So, it is very unfortunate that during the coronavirus threat, because now the danger to human existence is from extra human sources, whether it is climate change or whether it is the corona-like pandemic. I think we have to worry about these factors more than things like artificial and alterable borders. So it is in fact a contradiction that while the world is realizing that threat like coronavirus will not distinguish between human beings, and the human beings have to collectively face a danger like this, we are still fighting over borders. So with this myopic view, we cannot sustain. And because you mentioned my association with Socialist Party, let me tell you that the Socialist Party has taken a stand right from the beginning. Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia had conceived of India-Pakistan Mahasangh. So, the same concept, South Asia Union, where we can have a common currency like in Europe, or borders which are soft, and there is a collective engagement of the governments on the issue of socio-economic development, closer cooperation among the governments, and also the problems like Kashmir. The Socialist Party leader Jay Prakash Narayan, he started out as a Marxist but became a Gandhian later. His views on Kashmir and Nagaland were sympathetic to the local population. I mean, he supported the right of the local people to have the kind of governance that they would like. So on such issues, on the issues where there are disputes, regional disputes and the inter-country disputes, we have a position that these have to be amicably resolved in accordance to the wishes of the local people, and also the inter-country issues will be resolved if we have a larger vision of a world where the governments will cooperate. In fact, a number of people think that now it is time to have a world government, and the idea of nationalism based on boundaries or cultural identities, ethnic identities, is an ideology which should now give way to a larger idea of internationalism, and the world government should become more important now, and there should be world bodies like which already exist, but then they should work in the interest of the people. Right now, most of these institutions, whether they are the individual governments of the countries or the international institutions, they seem to be working for the capitalist class, for the international capital. So the orientation has to change. If they adopt a pro-people attitude, then that is the kind of system which can help the human race survive. Otherwise, we are doomed. Thank you.
Right, sir. So before we wind up, I think just hold on. After the last round, we'll say bye to everyone.
Sure.
Dr. Ji, otherwise we are doomed. We need to have a Jay Prakash Narayan to start with a Marxist turned Gandhian. Now in this era, he has to be a majoritarian. How do you look at this scenario now we have seen the homogeneous society of European Union, Brexit is happening. Now here in India, the Indian subcontinent, surrounded by China and Pakistan. Within the ruler concept only I'm stating, no human values. So how do you look at this scenario?
Well, I think the struggle has to continue. First of all, I think the political parties will always have to play a role. Those political parties who don't go with the wishes of the people, they'll be wiped out. Gradually, it may take some time. Those who change and stand with the wishes of the people, they will sustain. This is going to happen. As we are seeing in the present scenario, there is a lot of inequality increasing globally as well as locally. And we have also seen the insensitivity of the ruling classes towards the marginalized sections of the people. I am hopeful that the marginalized sections, they are also now realizing, because many of the young people among the marginalized section have gone through some sort of schooling, at least they have some education. Some of them have been to the colleges, so they understand the issues little bit more what their previous generation was understanding. So they are likely to fight back. The inequalities in the name of ethnicity, linguistics, and the caste and all the religious minorities, they are also existing in our countries. They are also speaking up. How it will end up, we don't know. How they will be organized, ultimately, we don't know. But we see the workers speaking up, as I said, in different ways. Farmers speaking, youth is speaking. Recently, I attended a seminar of the students where they were saying that online education for whom? Online education only for a few. What about the other students? They do not have an Android mobile phone, so they can't attend any online classes. They do not have a laptop. They do not have electricity. So what for them? So they are also speaking. So students are also have started raising voice. I think the coming times are the times of turmoil. Turmoils in maybe in positive sense. There is a danger that these ruling people in the center, they may try to use them and try to divert the attention as they have done successfully in the past. But now I think it will become little more difficult because the consciousness among the people has increased. People have started realizing that the present system of governance or the economic system is not giving the inclusive growth, and the marginalized section is further being marginalized. So I think they are going to speak up. So in that context, the political parties, particularly I would say the left parties, have to play a major role. Still, lot many of them are devoid of any corruption charges or so. Even though they are weak, their voice is not so much heard among the people, and of course the media is totally marginalizing them. So I think the left parties have to play a role. The national politics, the national parties, maybe the Congress is weak, and the structure of the Congress also has changed. I can see down below the Congress leadership at present at the district level also is not same as what used to be say 30 years back. They are not conscious. They are also in the process of minting money. But this will change. People have started realizing that thing. They have also to change. So struggle is on. We have all to work. I think what you are doing today is a work in that direction. We are moving ahead. We are moving forward. I'm sure we will move further. And our country has faced many difficult times. Now also, our country probably will show way to the world as we have shown. Lately, in the non-aligned movement, we did a lot to show the path of peace to the world. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Vijayan, let me come back to you. Doctor's peace words, but left now after China conflict, how they have been being blamed. Because I have seen Kerala CM the other day, I think you are also from this region, when he had attended a function wherein there was a book release, China in My Heart. Now all such type of hashtags to leftists, we have seen in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, what has happened to them. Their channels, they have collected money from their own workers, but they have channels where they go, no one understands. And which party with they are now, no one knows. And their support or their division of votes is benefiting whom? No one understands. Such ambiguity, except for Kerala. That is their state. And as he rightly said, Jayaprakash Naran being a Marxist to Gandhian, can we expect that there will be a majoritarian attitude also, shifting of such political leaders' attitude so that they can stand or they can withstand the ruling front? How do you look at the scenario, Mr. Vijayan?
I don't know if
You could not hear. There is some disturbance on your front. Is your voice, is my voice audible to you? Am I audible? Yeah, you are being audible. You go ahead. I think I've just go ahead, sir.
I think
Is it, one second, is it clear to you, Dr. G? Can you hear Mr. Vijayan? Yeah, there is some disturbance, Mr. Vijayan. I think everyone is not able to hear you. Either your earphone or something maybe just disturbing.
Some connectivity problem, the link.
Can't hear him.
Yes. Yeah. We'll try to wind up. Mr. Vijayan. Yeah, I think he may rejoin us. Let me just go to Mr. Sagar
I think
Dhara.
he's gone off.
Sagar Dhara, you have seen. Yeah, he may rejoin before we wind up. It's okay. Mr. Sagar Dhara, you finish it off. You have seen.
So let me kind
Do
of
we need a Jayaprakash?
bring the conversation down to South Asia.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go way beyond Jayaprakash. We certainly need tall leaders, and any crisis always throws up leaders, and many of them become tall leaders during independence movements or civil rights movements and so on. I mean, look at Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela and so on. Okay. Let me just talk about South Asia a bit. There's a paper of mine which recently got published, and basically we said 4-meter rise is what's going to happen by 2100 in the Sundarbans Delta. That means about 20 to 25% of Bangladesh is gone under the sea. Maldives will be fully under the sea by 2100. So Maldives has about 5 lakh people. They're going to be, climate refugees. You'll have about 5 crore plus people from Bangladesh who will be climate refugees. Where will they go? That area is an area I've been to in Bangladesh. It's extremely poor. Okay, there are only 2 ways India can respond. Either it can show them the gun, or a humane India will say, this is no fault of yours. We accept you. We will give you food and shelter. Right? Now, Bangladesh is responsible for only 0.3% of what is called the historic emissions. That means emissions that have been caused, carbon dioxide emissions that have been caused since 1700. They're responsible only for 0.3% of it. Okay. So these are 2 countries which are going to be swallowed up by the sea. Now, incidentally, Calcutta will go underwater by 2100. That's what our modeling shows. And so will Dhaka. Okay. On the other side, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, Pakistan has only one major river, the Indus. Indus, that part of the Himalayas, the Karakoram range, is a colder, drier area as compared to the central Himalayas and the eastern Himalayas. Indus is basically fed by water from snow melt and glacial melt. The contribution of snow melt and glacial melt is 60% to Indus River. Now, if you look at Brahmaputra and Ganga, major snow-fed rivers that you have in India, not more. The rest of it comes from precipitation. It is more than 12%. Now, if you, by 2100, you know what that's going to do to Pakistan? India doesn't have to do a thing. It's climate change, and I dare say it is climate change that's going to break Pakistan. And the same thing is going to happen to Afghanistan. Because Afghanistan's it has 4 major rivers. I will take only one of them, Amu Darya. Again, Amu Darya is dependent on glacial melt and snow melt to the extent of 60%. So Afghanistan, given its many tribes and many ethnic populations that it has, it is climate and geology that are going to change borders much more than the will of this party or that ruling dispensation and so on and so forth. That is the juncture at which we are today. Okay. Now Nepal and Bhutan and that part of the Himalayas which India and Pakistan hold are going to suffer from what are called GLOFs, glacial lake outburst floods. You have a glacial lake below every glacier, and because of global warming, that lake in fact expands, and suddenly the moraine dam that holds it bursts, and up to 100 to 150 kilometers, villages are washed off, people, cattle, farms, everything is washed off. Guess what it's going to do to Bhutan, Nepal, and Kashmir? It's going to be mayhem. And you have exactly the same scenario repeating itself in different parts of the world. So it is not people any longer or their ruling dispensations, in fact, if I were to be more accurate, that are going to change borders, but basically in a situation where 5 crore plus Bangladeshi, and this is a figure that I am not talking about, this is the figure that their own ambassador, I've quoted their own ambassador who made this statement in The Guardian, has said that there will be 5 crore Bangladeshi refugees by not, as I'm predicting, 2100. He said there'll be 5 crore Bangladeshi refugees by 2050. Where are they going to go? Okay, so these problems are problems that we are going to see within the next 2 to 3 decades. And unless we stress that as a human race, and we go back to Tagore about unity within diversity and accept that, when he talks, we are not going to do very well. So outlook in dealing with these issues. And this is where, in fact, probably for the first time, science and political science and philosophy, these are the kind of subjects which are probably going to show us the way. And we need a synthesis of all these different disciplines of knowledge, in a sense, to be able to overcome the kind of problems that we're going to see that are going to happen within this century.
Right. Well said, Dr. Sagar Dara. Now we are going to face the problems from the climate changes that is more severe and very fast happening. In such a scenario, why should rulers, in the name of borders, take the lives of innocent people, whether they are soldiers or innocent people dying, as we have seen on the Nepal when this kind of issues happened? At least political leaders should have wisdom. It should be a collective wisdom, personified thinking as to how we can have a better living. Now we are fighting Corona. Now what is happening in India? The same thing was a replication of the globe. Now, instead of concentrating on these health concerns, instead of sorting it out in a peaceful way, we have seen the barbaric acts of Chinese. You nail them. Now you have everything in United Nations WHO. Your chairman, Dr. Harshvardhan, is the chairman now. Why don't you, along with Trump, file a petition in the United Nations so that China can be taken to task for its Corona pandemic? First you do that, so that a committee is appointed, and that is how you try to bully them. And in the name of Chinese goods being banned or whatever it is, boycott. But what about the investments of Adanis to Ambanis, who have taken loans from public sector banks? It's our own money invested in China. What about them if they also replicate the same? Ultimately, is it not the people, the public money which is at stake? And again, we will be taxed in some way or the other. You have seen even during Corona, the rise of petroleum prices. It is mind-boggling when people are suffering, when they do not have money to purchase food. How is that? The petrol prices, it's a common man's transport, and because of which all the prices of essential commodities on the rise. Whom are they going to benefit? It has to be understood. When the soldiers are dying there, again we are planning to buy MiGs or Sukhois. Definitely, every Indian wants to be safe and secure. But is this the time? The promised 3 crores to all those Pulwama victims, did it reach their families? Let the government be transparent. And what is that you are going to do with these 20 soldiers who lost their lives? How are you going to console their families? In which way government is going to rescue them? Similarly, so many migrants, they are displaced. They don't have jobs. What about those who lost their lives? Similarly, farmers. Now you talk about the recession before Corona, unemployment was at peak. What do you say to the unemployed youth? You have anything? Again, you want to buy something. And again, you have shown to the world that even in Corona, you can increase petroleum prices. You can enhance the foreign direct investment in defense also. That is really something which is bothering. And only hope political parties at least now understand that they should have a wisdom-based approach. Collective wisdom should prevail. They should not be catering to either one minority or one caste agenda. You have a concept of Indianism. You come to the rescue of people as a whole. Their fundamental rights, right from food, as you rightly said, even environment and health, they are at stake. If you don't understand them, if you just go by Twitter and you just pass some comments and they become only headlines to be sabotaged by the ruling front with their frontline media, with the global attitude, which is really poisoning the people's mind by not allowing proper information being shared. At least now, I hope people also at large will understand what is happening at the borders or what is happening when it comes to the governance in addressing such situation. When Ministry of External Affairs is so subdued, but the other side of it, there is a rhetoric: boycott China products, ban all China. Fine, the barbaric act, no one should. But you have a weapon in your hands. You have, yes, Mr. Harshavardhan is there representing us. Why not we file a petition taking Corona, which is already destroying Chinese economy? Why are they not doing that? Why there is no political wisdom prevailing in such aspects? Instead, Indians are being taxed in every way during Corona crisis. That is why Dr. TSPR show right from the day was reminding Mr. Modi, said 15 lakhs which you promised in 2014. They said this is the time. As journalists, we don't have any payments for months now. All the advertisements, all the companies have gone to pay to PM CARES Fund or CM Relief Funds. What should a journalist like us, a farmers or migrants, unemployed youth, and the families whose succor is just on the day-to-day earnings, what should they all be doing? They say, Mr. Modi, invest on people. You see to that people's purchasing power is increased. You deposit 15 lakhs now. You stop buying all those for a second, because even if you buy, you are not going to employ them there, as you are bound by so many acts or so many agreements. Then what is the fun of buying them? For whose sake you are going to buy all those in this hour of crisis? And why are you going to meet China and Russia on 23rd? If you are planning for boycott of China, their products, what would be happening about our investments, about Adani and Ambani who have borrowed from the banks? And what is this rhetoric going on? At least now government should understand that they should not confuse people beyond. Already they are confused because of health. Health issue has been turned into a law and order issue. And furthermore, revenue, now it has become a politicking issue. Every day, a new headline comes to subdue Corona and health impact. And through health, there may be hunger deaths also, as people do not have money now. After the lockdown, people are at home. They are worried. They don't have money tomorrow to buy even basic essential food, nutritious food, which is the only saving grace to protect themselves from Corona and the impending diseases which are going to happen because of the climate change. Hope at least now these rulers will become personified, wisdom personified, and come to the rescue of common man. In saying so, we will end this show. Thank you, gentlemen. Before I wind up, let me remind people that they should wash their hands with soap or alcohol-based sanitizer when they go out. Use masks and maintain that physical distance, not social distance. Don't become Robin Hoods. Maintain physical distance. Wear your mask. And remember Dr. TSPR show, which says Namaste, Adab, and Hello when you want to greet your own people. At the same time, drink plenty of water, hot water right from morning till night. Have nutritious food. Expose yourself to morning sun, which helps you to gain vitamin D and also helps in vitamin C synthesis, which are most important for your health. Because no channel preaches this except for the China bash and all such type of things. So these things will clearly go into the mind of people, and they themselves have to become a Jayaprakash Narayan from leftist to a Gandhian, now from Gandhian to a right-wing or a humanitarian or a majoritarian. They have to become that. Only that way they can protect themselves, they can protect the society, they can protect the society, they can protect the state as well as country. With this, see you, gentlemen, with another issue soon. Bye for now. Thank you.